This is the rich client application exercise in Java. For this particular rich client application, we're going to be using JavaFX as the application framework for the rich client. As we typically do, I'm going to start off with the tests. Notice that we do have a warning here. If you have more than just one warning, this warning is expected. But if you have more than that, you may have a versioning problem. And if that's the case, you'll need to open up the POM.xml file and just change this version number to whatever version you're running for Java on your computer. If you're not sure, you can open up a terminal window and type java -- version, and it'll tell you the version that you're running. I'm running 23, so I would put that in if I needed to update the Maven compiler source and the Maven compiler target. If you don't have those warnings or errors, then you can proceed. From here, we will run our tests. We do get a failure, and our failure is on assertion, which is exactly what we'd expect. Effectively, it's saying that the value coming in is null instead of the value in reverse. So let's take a look at our test real fast. Not a lot going on here. We've got a mirror screen variable of type mirror screen. We're setting that equal to a new instance of the test mirror screen class. So test mirror screen must derive from mirror screen. We are then going to the mirror screen and saying set the text typed by the user to testing. So this is simulating the user typing the word testing into a text box. Then we're submitting. That's again simulating the user interaction. In this case, it's a button. So we'll click the button. Finally, we'll get the text that was displayed to the user and make sure that's the word testing in reverse. So if this isn't working, let's go and go to definition on submit. And sure enough, there's nothing in here. It is empty. So we need to implement this functionality. Effectively, what we need to do, we can see that this is an abstract class. We need to get the value of the text typed by user. So here's that property or that method. And then we are going to set the reverse text with the reverse value of that. So I can do this in one line. I'm going to do it in 3 lines. So we'll say var text equals this dot get text typed by user. So that'll retrieve whatever the user typed in. Then we need to reverse it. So we'll create our new string builder, give it text, reverse that, call to string. So there's our typical way in Java that we can reverse a string. And then finally, we need to set that. So set reverse text displayed to the reverse text. IntelliSense is helping me out a little bit. So there's our code. That basically takes care of all of that. Now we're still going to get an error. The reason we're getting the error so the reason we're getting an error now is it has to do with the test mirror screen class. If I go to definition on this class, what we've got here is we're overriding these abstract properties from the base class. So let's look at those again. These are abstract methods on the base class. That means there is no method body. There are no curly braces. So this is just a declaration or a promise that we're going to implement these methods. A derived class, which in this case is test mirror screen, it extends mirror screen. It must override those methods. And now in this case, it's not doing anything. So what we really need to do is we need to store and retrieve values out of fields. So I'm going to create a couple of fields for us. So we'll say private string reverse text displayed to user. And then another one that is the text typed by user. So each of these fields maps to the methods down below. And then all we need to do here on the return is return this.reverse text. And then on the setter, we'll say this.reverse text equals value. So the value that's coming in, we will set that to the reverse text. So that takes care of the reverse text. And I'm going to, just so we can see this, I'm going to make these on new lines. You can keep them on the same line, but just to make it easier to read on the screen. These are the methods. This is the round trip. So the setter brings a value in, stores it into reverse text displayed to user. And then the getter then returns that value back out. So that's our round trip. We're going to do the same thing with the text typed by user. So return, will this be text typed by user? And then our setter will simply be this text typed by user equals value. So we call these dumb getters and setters. They're not doing anything interesting. They're simply storing and retrieving a value out of a variable, out of a field for us. So now let's run our test again, and we do get a pass. So that concludes the testing part. Now the other part of this is we need to actually run the application. So this goes back to the README. Once we get that done, we want to run this command here. Maven, mvn javafx run -f pom.xml. So I'm going to open up a terminal window. I'm going to paste that in. This is going to take just a minute on your computer. It might take 2 or 3 minutes. It's going to run. And now this is blank. This is empty. There's nothing really going on here. So at this point, what we need to do is we need to actually add a text box, a button, and some sort of label or display control onto the JavaFX form. So to find these, I'm going to go back into the source folder, and under main, there are a couple of files that we're going to be editing at this point. In fact, let me close these other files so we can clean our workspace. So under Java, under COM, we've got mirror controller. So this is one of the files that we're going to need to edit as a part of JavaFX. The other is in this resources folder here, and we want the mirror fxml file. So mirror fxml maps to mirror controller. So these are naming conventions as a part of JavaFX. At this point, if you're not sure what to do, I would recommend opening up an internet search and trying to see JavaFX help me create a form with a text box and a button that reverses a string. So it'll help you probably find a few articles or maybe use AI, find some ideas on what you can do. I'm going to simply start typing the code here so I don't have to worry about other people's code. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to pull in a couple things. So we've got a label, we've got a button, definitely going to need those. The other thing I'm going to need is a text field. And the text field is how I create a text box. So let's do another import, JavaFX, scene, control, text field. Now that I've got this, I can add this onto my form. So we'll say text field, that's the first thing. And it's going to need an ID. We need this ID because we need to access this in the Java code behind this. So FX ID, let's call this input text field. Close that. So there's our text field. Now we're also going to need some sort of button that they can click. So we'll do a button here, and again, we'll give it an ID. Let's call it submit button. And the text is, let's say, reverse text. So that's the instruction. And then on action, so this is the Java function that's going to be called when the button is clicked. So let's call it submit button click. And then finally, we need some place to display the text. So I'm going to use a label here. And again, I will need an ID here. We'll call this reversed. Let's call it output to match the input. So output label. And initially the text is going to be empty. So these are the different controls that I need. And again, you can do an internet search, you can use AI to help you try to figure out what we want to do there. So let me save these. Now, the one thing that's going to cause a problem is the on action. So let me go ahead and create that function down here just so that this doesn't fail. It would help if I could type. All right, so there's our exception. We need to add an import, and then we also need to tell it that this is for fxml. This attribute is how JavaFX knows that this is found here. So this fxml ties the two together. So I'm going to save this just enough, and we're going to run the application again. Let's see if we get a UI that we can view. All right, there we go. So here we've got our text box. And then we'll reverse text, nothing's happening. So nothing's happening because we haven't wired it up, but we've at least created the controls so we can see what it looks like. So now let's wire it up. Let's connect everything that we need to do. We've got our submit button click. All we need to do is go to our mirror screen and then call submit. We've already got the submit logic in our mirror screen class, so we want to use that. It's already doing the reverse, so we don't want to do it again. We want to use what we've already got. Now the other problem is up here, these properties are not going to work. So let's run this real fast and I'll show you what I mean. And this errors out, and it's erroring out because we haven't implemented these methods here that's a part of our mirror screen extension. So the mirror controller mirror screen class extends or derives from mirror screen. We overrode the methods, but these are returning null, which is not what we want. So we need to implement these now. Specifically, what we need is we need the getter for the text typed, and we need the setter for the set reverse text to display. You can go and do the other ones as well, but we don't need them for this exercise, so I'm going to skip them. Now, in order to access the fields, there's a couple more things that we need to do. First off, we need to make sure to create private fxml fields for the different controls here. So these IDs that we had, we need to create controls or fields rather inside the code. So we'll do at fxml private, and let's start with the text field. So there's our input text field. Now we need the output label, again at fxml, and that's again tying it back together. This is going to be a label, a JavaFX scene control label. Make sure to get the right one. Let me go back on that just so we can look at that again. So if I type label, you'll notice there are a couple of labels that I can use. One is in the java.lang.class file package. The other is in the javafx.scene.control. And again, going back to what we had, we're in JavaFX. So if I'm not sure, I'm going to kind of guess. If that doesn't work, I'll try the other one. But since I'm in JavaFX, that's probably a safe bet. So I'll use that one. So paste that in. So now that we've got these fields, now we can use them. The one other thing that we need to do to be able to use them is we have to hold on to owner in this class when we construct it. So let me create a new field here. Private, final, mirror controller, owner. And then we simply hold on to that. Now that we've got that, we can use this. So let's get the text typed by the user. This would be this.owner.input text field dot get text. That looks about right, so we'll call get text. Then from there, we need to do a setter, so we'll simply say this owner output label set text. There it is, and it wants the value, and that's coming in. We called it value. That looks like it's wired up. Let's go ahead and run this one more time, see if we've got it running. Sure enough, there's the reverse. That concludes the Java application for Rich Client.